Welcome back to the kitchen. Today we are going to be doing one of the wet cooking method techniques. You'll remember that from what we discussed several weeks ago. Today we're going to be doing poached chicken breast. Poaching is a way of cooking typically meats. You can also do vegetables in a liquid medium, water-based medium that cooks them slowly, but does not dry them out, makes them very moist and tender. So that's what we're going to be working with today. So what we've got here as far as our ingredients, we've got our chicken breast, which I have trimmed down and also pounded it out to even thickness. We've talked about that before. We've got some of our homemade chicken stock that we made a couple of weeks ago that we're going to be using. We're also going to be using some white wine today. We've got a blend of spices, and I'm mainly using dried spices today just because I know in the past I've used a lot of fresh ones, but I wanted to just demonstrate how you could use dried as well, because a lot of times that's the only kind you can get, especially for certain herbs and spices. And today's chicken actually is going to be one that's called Scarborough Fair chicken. You may be familiar with the song Scarborough Fair, and in that song there is a phrase that says parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. So those are four of the main herbs that we're going to be using today. We've got about a teaspoon of each of dried parsley, rubbed sage. Now today I do have fresh rosemary, just because I didn't have any dried rosemary, and I have fresh growing in my herb garden, so we're using that. And then also dried thyme. We're also going to be using a bay leaf. We've got a couple of cloves of crushed garlic, some cracked black pepper, and some salt. You'll also see here that I've got a lemon and some cream. We're going to be using that to make a sauce to finish off our chicken, so I'll get to that in just a moment. So what we want to start off by doing is adding our chicken stock. And again, this just came out of the refrigerator, so it's still kind of in that gel state. We only want to add about a half a cup of this. And then we're also going to add about half a cup of white wine. And really what we're wanting to do is just get enough poaching liquid, that's what this is called, to come up about halfway on the chicken breast. We don't want it completely submerged. We're not going to boil this, we're going to poach it. I'll explain that in a minute. So go ahead and put my eye on here. There we go. And I'm going to put it on about medium heat. Again, we don't want this to come to a boil. We just basically kind of want it to simmer. And so once that chicken stock melts there, we'll see that come up there. I'm going to go ahead and add all of my herbs. Again, I've got about a teaspoon of each of the herbs, plus the bay leaf. I'm just going to go ahead and add those right into the poaching liquid there. Add our 2 cloves of crushed garlic. I'm going to add a pinch of cracked black pepper, and I'm going to kind of eyeball this, but about a teaspoon of kosher salt. All right, now you can do any aromatics that you want, any kind of blend of herbs. Say you wanted to do an Italian flavor, you could use some basil, some oregano, parsley, any of your typical Italian spices, marjoram, things like that. Or you could do any blend of herbs or spices that you wanted to. Just whatever it is that you like, you prefer, to flavor this poaching liquid here. As you can see, this is already starting to kind of steam there. Again, I'm going to let that chicken stock get all melted down in there. Now this is going to be a very lightly flavored piece of chicken. It's not going to be overpowering because we're not going to cook it for very long, just long enough for it to reach 165. And so it's going to be very light. It's not going to be overpowered by all these herbs. You may be thinking, oh, that's a lot of herbs and stuff in there. But I promise you it's not going to be bad. But it is going to be tasty. It's going to be very good. The chicken will be tender and juicy because it is being cooked in this liquid, and also cooked just until it's done. We're not going to overcook it. So I've got my chicken stock melted, and again, you can see here, let me see if I can scoot my camera a little bit closer here. It doesn't look like a whole lot of liquid, and it's really not. And again, you'll be able to see because this chicken breast is not very thick. Even though it's long, it's not very thick, especially once you pound out the thick part. And so we don't want a whole lot of liquid in there, just enough to kind of come up the sides, not completely submerge it in this liquid. Now I'm just going to do one chicken breast today. You could do however many would fit in your pan, or if you're cooking for a larger crowd, you could do however many would fit, and once they're done, pull them off and hold them to the side, keep them warm, and do others until you've got enough cooked there. So again, the poaching liquid is steaming. You can hopefully see that. So I'm going to go ahead and add the chicken breast here. And again, you can see that the liquid just comes up barely to the top. It's not covering it. That's what we want here. So we're just going to kind of let that simmer there. We don't want to bring it to a roiling boil. We don't want to boil this at all. We just want it to simmer. That's what poaching is you're cooking this protein in just some simmering liquid, in this case the liquid in the herbs that we've got right there, just until it's done. So we're going to let that continue to simmer for a couple of minutes until we start to see the chicken turn opaque, turn white along the edges. Then we'll take our tongs and gently flip it over and let it finish cooking. And then as it's doing that, after we flip it, I'll show you how we're going to make a sauce which we discussed last week. So again, if you can see here, I don't know if you can see into the pan, but we've got some little bubbles starting, so it is beginning to boil. So again, I'm going to kind of just adjust my heat here. This is one thing with poaching is you always need to be watching it, adjusting your heat, making sure that it doesn't come to too much of a boil. I'm also going to move my chicken kind of to the center of the pan here. And again, poaching is one of the wet cooking methods. It uses water-based liquids, which that's one of the main definitions for a wet or moist cooking method, is that it must use water or a water-based liquid. Again, in this case, we're using chicken stock, white wine, and then our herbs and seasonings there. So as you can see here, and this does not take long, you can see here it's already starting to turn opaque on the sides there. So I'm going to use my tongs here and gently turn this over and allow that to continue simmering. Now, what I'm also going to do is while that is cooking, I'm going to put this eye on right here. And I'm going to switch sides here. I'm going to put our chicken right here. And I'm going to put this pan here. And I'm going to show you how we're going to make a nice sauce to go on this chicken once it's done. So I mentioned we've got some heavy whipping cream. Now in this case, I'm going to put my heat pretty high. I've got a small saute pan here. And I'm just going to add enough cream to kind of cover the bottom of that pan there. You probably, again, want about maybe a quarter to a third of a cup. And I'm also going to add a few drops of fresh squeezed lemon juice, not too much. And we're going to add some salt to this. Basically making a lemon cream sauce, and this will be a nice sauce to finish off that chicken once it is done. Okay, so I had a little glitch with my camera there, but I think we're good now. So I had to turn this off. I'm gonna put it back on. So again, we're reducing this cream and lemon juice down. And again, by reducing, what we mean by that is we're just taking some of the liquid out. Our chicken's almost done. I just temped it while I was getting everything set back up here. So we're going to let that continue to simmer for just a couple more minutes. You can see this cream is beginning to bubble right here. That means that liquid is cooking out of it. What we want to do is reduce this to what's called a nappe consistency. Nappe is basically if you would take a metal spoon and dip some in there and then run your finger across the back of the spoon, the cream or the sauce would not run down into the space that you just wiped. So I don't have much cream in there to begin with, so this is about done. So I'm just going to put that on low. And again, we're going to let our chicken finish off here. While I was getting the camera fixed, had to turn that off, and it cooled down pretty quick, but now it's warming back up, so it's starting to simmer again. So again, I'm going to move this chicken to where it is mostly covered, or not covered, but it's in a good bit of that liquid. Let that finish cooking there. Should only take about a minute or two more, if that. It was almost ready. So I'm going to use my meat thermometer here, and we're going to check the temperature of this chicken. Again, we want it to be at 165. That is the temperature at which salmonella is killed, and I'm checking it in the thickest part of the meat. So we're at almost 150, so it is almost there. I'm actually going to turn this back over. And I don't know if you can see over here, but when I turned it over, that cooler side that was not down actually caused the liquid around it to cool down and stop bubbling for just a moment. Now it's starting to come back to that bubbling state there. Now, if you're doing several of these and you start to lose some liquid, you don't have enough, you can obviously add a little more wine or chicken stock. Actually, you could probably just add a little water, because that's the only thing really that's cooking out of here is the alcohol from the wine, which is not much, and then the water from both the wine and the chicken stock. So you can just add a little bit of water. It's not going to dilute it in any way. All right, so let's check this one more time. I bet you we are about there. So my thermometer is reading 151, 152, so it's almost there. Our lemon cream sauce has thickened. That'll be the perfect consistency to put on top of this chicken breast. Sauces are always nice to put on top of a protein or something that it gives it some eye appeal. It also gives it an extra flavor component. So it's just really nice to always try to have a sauce with your protein there. All right, we're going to check the temperature on this one more time, because I think that we are probably there. I'm going to come in from the side this time, get it right in the middle. And we are at 165. So we are good. I'm going to turn this off and show you how we're going to plate this up real quick. So again, I'm just going to I want to kind of wash off as much of those herbs as I can. If some are on there, that's okay. But typically with poached meats, you want them to be just kind of plain. So we're putting it on our plate there. Normally I would use a spatula, but I don't have one with me today to get this sauce off of here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of gently pour that on the top there. Again, a nice little lemon cream sauce. Then I'm going to finish it off with a little piece of lemon that I've got right there. And if you wanted to, you could sprinkle a little fresh chopped parsley or even a little dried parsley right there just to give it a little pop of color. But right here we have our poached chicken breast with a lemon cream sauce. Very simple, very easy. You could serve this with some nice roasted or sauteed vegetables or even some steamed vegetables. This is very healthy. We didn't use any oil or fat to cook it in, so if you're looking to go for a low-fat diet, this is a nice way to cook this. The cream sauce is not low-fat, but the poaching method is a good way to go low-fat there without adding any extra oils or anything like that. So poached chicken breast with lemon cream sauce. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you'll try it out, and bon appetit.